mistaken for Hamas.
In the Red Sea in Egypt. The event was 2 weeks after what happened in Hamas. Created a lot of, I think, fear for anyone going in that area. We were first paramotoring over the pyramids. Unfortunately, Hamas used paramotors as a part of that attack. I had this person run kind of out in the street, wave their arms at me. And normally people are waving because they're excited, but this person did not seem very excited. And then it kind of dawned on me, maybe they think that that's to attack the Temple of Luxor, who knows? So that was a little scary. Someone might be thinking that this situation is very different from what's actually going on.
Welcome to Let Me Save You 25 Years podcast, not just another interview podcast. Instead, we jump right into a new Shawnism each week. Each one is a lesson I've learned, usually the hard way, along the way, in hopes that you can maybe learn from my mistakes and build great things, even bigger, better, faster than I ever did, perhaps shaving off a decade or two maybe off your own journey. These are simply true principles for success in life, not just business or entrepreneurship, unpacked in great depth by a couple of successful people each week. My book, also called Let Me Save You 25 Years, where today's topic comes from, is intentionally very short. So think of this as the long version where we can go even deeper into the topic. And I'm so excited about the insights from our special guest today, action, sports, Instagram, and YouTube phenom, Marshall Mosher, that he will add to our topic of Shawnism number 22, stay cool and be kind. This week, we welcome a world-renowned action sports athlete, Instagram and YouTube superstar. This guy flies actual jetpacks, jet suits, glider wings, cart wings, paragliders. He dives, he rides, he jumps off of things. Heck, he lives in a van and never stops doing radical stuff or training others how to do them or speaking about them on stages like TEDx or countless corporate events. He is also an entrepreneur, a speaker, a motivator. He's founded a few companies himself and invested in many others, all connecting back to his passion for the extreme and sharing it with others. He somehow found time to pull the van over to the side of a highway, I think a beach somewhere, and share a little bit of his own wisdom with us today. We welcome to the pod, Mr. Marshall Mosher.
Thanks, Shawn. You are the best at intros. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh yeah. Well, it's easy when you have a rap sheet like yours, man. It's great to have you. Thanks so much.
Thanks. It's compared to some of the guests you've had on this show, I mean, I just spent 27 hours driving down from Salt Lake down the Baja Peninsula, and your podcasts have been some of my favorite time spent down here on the road. So amazing insights from such incredible people. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. I'm really flattered to have you. So when you got the topic, stay cool and be kind, first thing that came to your mind, first event, experience, whatever, anything.
Yeah. I mean, every day. One of the reasons that I love adventure sports and van life in conjunction with how it relates to entrepreneurship is, to me, it's the physical manifestation of adaptability, getting outside of your comfort zone, pushing through the unknown, all these things that we talk about from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but played out in real life, where if you don't have to stay cool and be kind, or if you don't do that, then you could be in real serious trouble physically, mentally, whether your van breaks down on the side of the highway.
Yeah. So this is a topic you feel like somehow it sounds like you have to kind of lean into every day somehow, maybe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, whether it's a big thing that happens or a small thing that happens, there's always something where something breaks, something happens. You mess up something from an adventure sports standpoint. Let's say you mess up your launch. And like, for instance, I love paramotoring. A big part of the trip that I'm doing here in Baja is paramotoring down the coastline, trying to fly as much of it as I can. And sometimes you mess up your launch, the glider above you falls in your propeller, the lines get all caught up, maybe you break a prop, and you just have to take a deep breath, get back up.
Has that happened? Like your glider has gotten eaten by your propeller, or someone that's happened to? Is that a thing?
That's happened a couple of times. I mean, that's a bit of an extreme example. Usually it's just, you maybe slip on a deep patch of sand and you face plant with the thrust of the propeller pushing you into the ground, and you just get really embarrassed, but you're not actually hurting or breaking anything. But yeah, sometimes I had that happen once where I tripped on launch. I had the thrust of the motor was in my throttle, and the fall pushed the throttle down and pushed me into the ground, and the propeller was spinning on my back, and then the wing fell in the propeller, and it like chopped a big piece of the propeller or of the wing out. But usually it's not that bad. I'm making this sport sound terrifying. I promise. Usually things go well, but every now and then, obviously, there's situations, whether it's in paramotoring or, for instance, everyone has a fridge, but in a van, fridge is pretty important. My freezer just stopped working, and all my stuff that I had planned as my food for I love remote camping, kind of being off grid. Right now I'm on a beach that has no cell signal using Starlink. So I kind of rely on that food to be able to stay here. It's not a big deal. You just have to drive to the next town, maybe lose an hour, but there's always something. And it's not about what happens, it's about how we react to it. The mindset that we have to say, hey, this is a chance for growth, a chance for figuring something out, and a chance for making a situation that's tough into a good story.
Okay, so two questions. One, are you wearing a parachute as well when you're wait, what's it called?
Paragliding.
Paragliding, but also motor
powered paragliding, or PPG is the acronym for when you have the big backpack fan on your back.
Yeah.
Yes. So what you're flying is people say it's a parachute. It's really an actual wing. It's the semantics of it being different are kind of technical, but it's the thing you're flying is essentially a parachute. But then you also have a reserve parachute that's more of an actual parachute, because a parachute is really just meant to descend you slowly to the ground, but not actually fly like a wing of an airplane.
Right.
So yeah, you have at least one, sometimes two. And if you're doing extreme acrobatic maneuvers, you usually have two. Or if you're doing a course to practice safety maneuvers, you usually have two. But yeah, we always have one with us. If something were to happen, you throw that. Actually got a crazy story of my first SIV I was ever doing, which is one of these safety courses, where I threw my reserve into the wing and it got all tangled up and bundled up. And now I'm falling with just a bunch of lines and cloth around me. That was terrifying.
Oh, hold on. So in that moment, you are falling toward the earth at, what is it, 9.8 meters per second? No, probably not. You got a little drag from two.
Maybe not that fast.
Okay, but you're falling to the earth. It's all tangled up. How are you staying cool? Are you being, I mean, can you, or,
that was a hard test for staying cool. I don't know if my definition or range of cool was definitely on the more not cool side in that moment.
There's a time to get adrenalized, right? And react. Right. What happened there? Hold on. You have to resolve that one at least. What happened there?
Well, I should probably back up and explain the story a little bit better. I'm probably terrifying everyone away from ever wanting to paraglide to try this. Please, I promise, this stuff is extreme examples. When you're actually pushing it doesn't usually happen unless you're doing stuff like this. But I was doing a safety course called a SIV, Simulated Incident in Flight, but in French, because paragliding was invented in France. And the goal of the course is to intentionally stop your wing from flying in all kinds of crazy configurations while over a lake with two reserve parachutes, a life vest, a boat, and an instructor who's watching you and telling you what to do with the radio. So extremely safe way to practice all these things. And I was practicing the first of the really scary maneuvers that actually has a pretty high consequence of messing up, what's called a full stall. You're pulling the brakes so much to the point where the wing stops flying and starts falling backwards. If you were to let go of the brakes at the exact wrong time, the wing could surge in front of you. You essentially do a half flip and then fall into the wing. It's the worst thing that can happen. So I was a little scared. Of course, that scenario, the instructor never lets that happen, but I just had that in the back of my head, like, don't do this. And I just held the stall a little bit too long. The video's on my TED Talk if anyone wants to see it, but the wing starts twisting really violently and just does like 7 or 8 riser twists, which means that you're staying still, but the wing is spinning above you. So the lines are all twisted up in this big twisted rope knot, which completely prevents me from having any kind of input, because the inputs are controlled by the brakes that are in my right and my left hand. And I was just spiraling down to the earth. And I was still staying calm. And I thought to myself, right, I trained for this. I knew this was a possibility. I have this reserve parachute. So I grab my reserve parachute, I throw it. This is the first time I've ever actually had to throw my reserve parachute, which is usually what happens in these courses. You practice doing this kind of stuff. And I toss the reserve parachute in a way where the spiraling motion caused it to go straight into the balled up wing and not open. So now my reserve parachute was caught in the wing spiraling. I actually only had one reserve parachute because it wasn't required to have two, and I just hadn't bought an extra one. Next time I go, I'm going to bring two. But now I'm starting to think, okay, this is not part of the situation I'd planned for. Of course, I still need to stay cool and focus on the task at hand. I still had maybe 1,000 feet of altitude, and I knew that the only way to save this is to get that reserve parachute out of the wing. So I start pulling the lines towards me to try to get it out, and eventually, maybe 100 feet above the water, it pops open. I land in the water. I'm sitting there, just laying in the water. My life vest is keeping me afloat. And I was thinking to myself, like, that was kind of when I started feeling all the emotions, but like that was a really intense event. And then I had this thought in the back of my head that I survived the full stall, the reserve parachute deployment not opening, but now I'm actually floating in what was the biggest alligator sanctuary in Florida, this giant lake that has a ton of alligators.
Perfect.
Which was just an ironic thing to have in the back of my head. But yeah, at the end of the day, I got out. I wanted to just quit paragliding forever and say, hey, this isn't for me. I wanted to not stay cool and not be kind to my love of the sport. And I knew that if I didn't get back up on the horse the next day, if I didn't try the next thing again, I would lose this sport that had given me so much freedom and so much inspiration in the physical manifestation of flight, which is such a powerful analogy of leaving the constraints that physics has on us. And I knew I couldn't lose that. So I got back out there, tried it again, did it right.
Did you fly again the next day?
Yeah. I really didn't want to.
But. No, but you know what? Like, that's so funny. I mean, maybe we learned this same concept along the way, but I mean, that old phrase, fall off the horse, get back on. But I've been very adamant in my own life, like about things like that, whether it came to, I learned how to dirt bike, which I'm passionate about. And I do it at a fairly high level now, only a few years ago. And it was terrifying as it I'm in my 40s. I'm not in my 20s anymore where you're made of rubber. A lot of people learn it when they're little kids, like I'm teaching, and so it's in their bones. Anyway, you have to fall hard and get damaged physically and I had to get back on that horse a bunch of times where I didn't even want to. So I think that's a powerful concept in and of itself.
100%. And one thing that I really loved from your Daniel Pink episode is whenever you feel like you're so far outside of your comfort zone that you just feel sick, if you reframe that discomfort to think, hey, this isn't bad, this is learning, this is growth, this is me becoming a better version of myself, then you're much more capable of having the mindset you need to push through it and prevail on the other side. Because it's really all about mindset. It's not about what happens to it. It's about how we react.
I learned, you pick up these little nuggets along the way. I learned a really powerful one just the other day in this realm. When you're feeling super nervous, if you say to yourself, even audibly, but for sure in your mind, and I try to teach my kids this now, when you're feeling, when you're nervous, when you're scared, you say, I'm so excited. Your body and your physiology and your hormone production, your adrenaline, all of it gets channeled toward this feeling of excitement, which can lead you to heightened performance versus this feeling of anxiety. And they come from the same place almost, because, a lot of those hormones can be the same. And man, that's been the coolest hack. So I've adopted this. Like whenever I'm feeling that, I just make myself say, I'm so excited. And it changes everything. It's crazy. It's a really cool little biohack.
It really does. Yeah. It's so fascinating what the brain can do, and the power of mindset, power of reframing the situation we're in from negative to positive. It's one of my buddies is both a action sport guy and like a PhD neuroscientist, and I just love hearing him just geek out over all the technical brain stuff of like, in that situation, this is actually what's going on, and these are the neurotransmitters. And, it's fascinating what we can do if we set our mindset and our mentality in the right way.
And another related one, another nugget, right? They've proven that some of the most satisfying and soul rewarding, joy building experiences in our lives come specifically when we're doing very hard or difficult, challenging, even, scary things with others, when you are achieving and conquering together. And that sounds obvious, like if you've ever been a part of a team or anything. And I think that's why I fell in love with dirt biking, because you almost never ride alone dirt biking. I mean, it's too dangerous, right? Like, because if you go down and you get knocked unconscious, you have to have people there to, help you out. And the same with a lot of things you do. Right. I don't think you do a lot of the things that you do alone. You probably do, but it's more common to at least have people in a group. And so I found that really satisfying, is to learning that. And I think that's why raising a family is so much fun and satisfying. I was just skiing with my kids today, in fact, and I almost to the point where I don't even want to go skiing, honestly, unless it's with my kids. It's not even satisfying because it's so much more satisfying. The dirt biking thing with my friends, I think, also building a business, we get to like face into crazy, tough, financial, difficult, executional challenges with great people, and the outcome's so satisfying. So kind of another little triangulation in this realm that I've found to be true.
100%. Yeah. I think, one of the most powerful tools for building bonds is shared adversity with people that you love. It's the hero's journey from a storytelling standpoint, from the lens of the history of humanity. When you're navigating challenging environments together and you have to rely on each other to survive and push through those environments, like those are the bonds that really bring us together. I mean, that's the reason why the past week I was willing to, tell a good friend, yeah, come join me in my super small camper van where we have to share a bed with two big grown dudes, but we're going to get to paramotor down the coast of Baja together. And it's going to be so much better than if I'm just doing it by myself. Because those are the moments that you really remember, being able to push through the challenges, not by yourself, but with someone else that pushes you to have that mindset that we were just talking about, and to overcome whatever things we have in front of us.
Yeah. So speaking of overcoming, the joy it can bring, especially doing it with, others, overcoming adversity together, as you put it. Adversity. Okay. So back to stay cool and be kind. Besides the extreme version of I'm plummeting to the earth with my parachute twisted up, which is something that probably most people won't have to face. What about everyday life stuff? Like, what comes to mind to you? Like, have you ever, and by the way, it could be a positive experience where like you were proud of yourself. I shared one on my preamble to this, where I was proud of myself for staying cool in a couple of really intense situations, or a negative one where you lost it and you realize later, like, I really had to learn from that experience. Anything come to mind for you in that realm?
Yeah, totally. Obviously there's all these crazy adventure scenarios, but one story from entrepreneurship is when I was studying in college, I thought I wanted to go to med school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I realized I didn't want to go to med school, but I didn't really know what else was out there. So I took this entrepreneurship elective in the last semester of my master's program and fell in love with it, and ended up starting a company around this concept of using shared adversity for team building and for personal growth, both personal and professional, for businesses, of taking your executive team out and doing something that feels dangerous, feels scary, but isn't too hard, is accessible to everyone, and being able to push through that. So we would create these intro repelling experiences where you're literally taking the leap into the unknown by walking backwards off a cliff on a rope, where it's you, the rope, you have a safety belayer below you, a pretty powerful opportunity to bond with that person. But obviously there's a million challenges in entrepreneurship you have to overcome. The last thing you would ever expect is a global pandemic to completely shut down your ability to lead this business you've just built, which is an in-person events business. And that was, that was a big moment for me, where I really had to embrace this, stay cool, be kind to the people around you. We're all in this together mindset, where, no matter how frustrated I was that, we're outside in the wind, we still can't do this thing. I had to keep that really in the forefront of my mind pretty much on a daily basis. And we were able to pivot to create a virtual reality based company where we created virtual reality adventure environments for all the teams that were now remote, which was pretty much everyone. And we were able to create environments that weren't nearly as impactful as rappelling off a cliff together with your team, but still a lot more impactful than a Zoom call, and be able to take that impact and that transformation and pack it into a new packaging that was accessible in this new remote world. And
I saw that your virtual reality, team building, training, adventure, high adventure. I mean, what an amazing concept. And to be able to so were you able to carry yourself through the pandemic on that concept or others? Like, did you make it through that stressful moment?
We did. The concept kept applying itself in multiple ways. Just, the nature of entrepreneurship is definitely that roller coaster analogy that we all use. But yeah, the problem of not being able to deliver our business in the way that we had built it became a huge opportunity, where now there's all these remote teams, and we have, fortunately, we'd already been working on this virtual reality concept for remote teams, and we were all already well positioned to launch something relatively quickly and take advantage of this massive new market. And then we had a ton of demand in a way that we were just months before thinking about how we were going to keep the lights on and pay payroll. But then, you fast forward a year and a half later, and the virtual reality environment that we built in a metaverse app called Altspace, which was the premier metaverse app at the time, that app was acquired by Microsoft and then shut down. So we spent all this time and effort and pivoted the company pretty much exclusively, because we couldn't do anything in person, into virtual reality, that we built this environment and optimized it for this metaverse app that was the biggest one at the time. And now we couldn't use that anymore. So just right back to where we were before, in that mindset of you just had to stay cool, be kind, forge ahead, and make it happen.
Pivot again.
Yeah.
And now,
exactly.
is the bulk of your, I guess, income, or I guess, I don't know, as is it coming now from continued, corporate trainings that you're doing? Because obviously you're back to doing them in person. Is it coming from van life and influencing as you do, and creating content? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of both of those things. When Altspace shut down our VR experience, we had other apps and other VR experiences that we could lead, but that was the big, really exciting one. It was this virtual reality Everest experience that we'd built and put just a lot of time and effort into.
Oh my
It was right around the end of COVID when that happened, and people wanted to be back together in person. And all throughout COVID, I had moved into a camper van that I'd had for a couple of years, but never really lived in. We got rid of our offices like most people, and I was just working full-time remotely from a camper van where I could make my office the top of a mountain where I could go paraglide into the sunset after a long day at work. So I was living this kind of lifestyle and trying to help promote that through social avenues to be able to showcase these sports that I hope to encourage people to get into personally, but then also doing the adventure stuff professionally. So I was able to not take a salary from the company by supporting myself through social media promotion and all the kind of the brand deals I was getting to push all this adventure sport stuff that was just blowing up, because everyone wanted to get outside finally, because COVID just kept everyone so close inside. But then I also had the opportunity after COVID started kind of returning things to normal life, where a lot of the founders and executives that we were working with on the virtual reality side were following me on Instagram and saying, "Hey, I love that lifestyle. I've always wanted to learn how to do this. You inspired me to do it. I'm busy. I can't really take time off of work, but like, if you can put together a group of a bunch of other CEOs and founders and kind of like a mastermind style group of people, then I could justify it as a work expense. Come learn how to paraglide, come whatever it is, and also use it as a bit of a business style training." So I put together a new concept called the Adventure Summits, where we cater to founders, content creators, executives who want to step outside of their comfort zone in a new way and we take usually 5 to 10 days of going from step one, never having tried the sport before, to fully competent in the world's top adventure sports, where the whole focus is during the day getting outside of your comfort zone and learning, let's say, how to kiteboard. And then in the evening, being able to discuss that with these amazing people that I personally all really look up to, as people like yourself, to be able to tell these stories of how their experience out on the water, just face planting when the kite launched them into the air, relates back to that time when they had to do this crazy business deal on this thing and whatever. And that's kind of the way we pivoted, and also something that has just personally been really inspiring for me to not just organize, but be a part of in learning all
Okay,
the
Marshall, I'm in. So the kiteboarding one, I'm in. It's been a goal of mine. I've dabbled in it. I've ridden a number of times, but I'm still a novice, and I need to nail it. So send me the info. I'm so excited.
This is the way to do it. You would love it. Yeah. I would be honored to have you there.
All right. So, man, it conjures up a couple of thoughts in my mind. Let me share this, building on your experience with COVID. Same moment for me. I share in the book this moment where my company was faltering and I needed to raise money, and it was super stressful, and my life was just so stressed at the time. And I just had to almost force myself to like keep it cool around my children, around my coworkers. I've experienced that. I don't even know 1,000 times, right, over the years. And I haven't always responded well, but over the years, I think I've gotten a little better at it. COVID forced me to shut down, I think at the time, 150 stores. And those represented 80% of my sales. Like, imagine if, 80% of your business, whatever your business is, was you had to by mandate stop it. I mean, so we immediately, when we got this news, we rounded up, my top team and my board of directors, had some very intense meetings because we thought 80% of our revenue is about to stop. And we employed 1,000 people at the time, and, facing maybe laying off most of them. Who knows? I mean, 80% of your sales, how can you possibly even make payroll that next week or 2 or 3 if they sales just stop? And it was terrifying. And in those very intense meetings, I found, the strength, I think, and so did everyone around me, to just be very professional and say, hey, what are we going to do next? And make a plan. And issue by issue, it wasn't ideal. It was beyond not ideal, but issue by issue, work through it. Low voices, no one wigging out, no one screaming, no one, everyone's feeling emotion underneath, but how do you contain and control that emotion? Getting enough sleep, even when this could be a very sleepless period of time. Playing along the way, another Shawnism, like still going out and maybe riding my dirt bike to blow off steam or whatever it may be. You can't just stop being a human. And look, sometimes you can't even do that, because I've lived through periods of my life where like I basically worked 64 hours straight without sleeping because that's what needed to be done. But whatever the case may be, whatever you're facing, finding that self-control to stay cool, be kind, work through it. And then, by the way, like 3 weeks later, as it turns out, while everyone's at home thinking about the state of their couch, sales online explode for us. And we have some of the biggest sales years of our life. And then we had to keep up with it and rehire and restaff and do this and that and get people working from home to keep. And how could we have predicted that? Why would a global pandemic result in record sales? And of course, that's fantastic. But I lived through this number of weeks of just absolute terror. And I was so proud of my team, because not just me, everybody stayed cool, was kind, professional. And I believe that there is almost nothing, maybe nothing you can't work through where staying cool and being kind is possible. And people use this excuse, well, I'm just so stressed, or it was just so hard, or you don't know what it's like, and look, I've made all those excuses, but I'm not proud of it. And I'm most proud when I've been able to muster up the energy to control it and maintain it, even in the face of the worst stuff, even life-threatening stuff. And I've been there too. And so I thought it would be so fun to unpack this with you. Any other experiences come to mind that,
Yeah.
you know,
Thanks for sharing that.
good or bad?
That's such an amazing example. And I think COVID was such a perfect kind of silver lining opportunity for the whole world to practice this mindset of pushing through something
Yeah.
that was super hard and terrible. And then if you had the right mindset and the right way to adapt to it, having sometimes massive opportunity come through it as well. So I think
How do you find that
that's such a
mindset?
great example.
How do you develop the power or muscle memory or capacity to stay cool and be kind in intense moments?
It's a great question. I think gratitude is one of the most important and underrated tools in
Hmm.
building up this mindset, where every day I try to meditate for 10 minutes and do a gratitude practice where I think through, no matter what else is going on, it could be the world's on fire or it could be everything's great. I try to think through, okay, this is the situation I'm in. What am I grateful for? Who are the people that I'm really grateful for, and the things that they've really gone out of their way to do to help, and how do I express that gratitude? And through that practice, I think that's one thing that no matter how hard the adversity is that we're pushing through, we can always find something to be grateful for.
Hmm.
That's one thing I love from adventure sports as well. Like
I love that.
uh, no matter how hard the conditions are, like let's say I'm paragliding and it's just a really scary kind of rowdy thermic day and I've just been bounced around and I'm really scared. And then all of a sudden I'll like find this area of really calm air where everything just kind of gets quiet and have this beautiful um, just landscape in front of me with like the sunset and birds flying. And I just think through, how grateful I am to be alive, because 10 seconds ago I was like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, this is pretty scary. And it just, these adventure sport opportunities constantly give us the chance to practice being grateful, being alive, being grateful for what we have. And
Wow.
that gratitude is a huge tool.
What a powerful unlock. Like, who would connect, gratitude with developing the ability to stay calm in intense situations? And I think it's brilliant because, there's this quote that stuck with me years ago. So for me, it's prayer. Like, I list all of the things I'm grateful for every day on both ends, at least through prayer, for me. And I try to make that the bulk of, my prayers, to be really transparent and honest. And I try and encourage my kids to do the same. And make really long lists and specific lists, listing things like dumb things, little things, big things, all of it, concepts, not just things, of course, but like ideas and people and relationships and this gratitude. Wow. And I heard this quote once, the times we don't feel like praying because maybe we're exhausted, maybe we're just need to fall asleep. We just need to, or I'm distracted, or I'm stressed out, or I just feel terrible. The times we most feel like not praying are the times we need to pray the most. And whether you're
Yeah,
religious or not,
100%.
the times we feel least like being grateful or listing the things we're grateful for. And then another one that I live by, I try to be grateful for the problems I have, because I could list 2 or 3 things right now, problems I would not want to have. And I have all kinds of problems. We all do. All kinds of things bothering me, plaguing me, my family, children, relationships, whatever. And I try to list them and be grateful for those problems, because there are other ones. There are other ones.
Yeah, that's so true. It's interesting. One other thing that I really love from your interview with Daniel Pink is the things that we regret the most are the things that we don't do. It's not the
Hmm.
problems that we have and the challenges that we have. It's not having the courage to go put ourselves in the situation where we're going to have those problems in the first place. And then when we push through those, and the stories of prevailing, those are the things that really give us that sense of
Hmm.
gratitude and confidence in our ability to go out and do the next thing. So yeah, it
Hmm.
is funny how with the right mindset, the right outlook, that the problems, the obstacle is the way, is
Yeah.
a quote that I really like.
Yeah. I love that. Great book too. And one last piece that comes to my mind when I think of developing the capacity and that's what I've been so grateful to write this book is, um, deciding ahead of time. I don't know how else to put it. Deciding ahead of time. So I shared this experience in my preamble about this friend of mine who wrecked my car, but I had decided and I had written it down because I wrote this book, how everything else is dust and how I will not put my things ahead of people, even very expensive things, even things I really prize and value. And because I had done that in that moment where I got the call, like, I've just destroyed your car, I was able to stay calm, stay cool, and be kind. And I think I was. And I wouldn't have had that power had I not committed and not just decided ahead of time, but also even written it down or also even shared it with others, because then I'm a hypocrite. And I think your mind knows, like, when you have put something out there. And that's why I try to put so much out there, is because then I'm committed. Otherwise, I'm just this big hypocrite. That's why I'm doing this podcast. It's for myself, right? Like, by saying all these things or by promoting these concepts, like, I am a raving, stark, bald-faced hypocrite if I don't behave this way. And by the way, I don't behave this way. I mess up on these concepts all the time. With my own kids, I told you I took them skiing today. There is nothing more stressful. Listen, skiing is like, how it is, man. Like, am I dressed too warm? Am I going to sweat? Which skis do I want? The powder skis, the flat skis? What's kind of, and then when you multiply that with a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 9-year-old, and all the stuff, and the poles are too short, and then they just grew, and their feet don't fit their boots anymore, but they kind of fit, and they could get them in, and like, which skis are yours, and where are they, like, do you need a neck thing, or do you want a full HUD thing? And then you're going to be sweating, and then I got to get their stuff from here to there, and by the time I get them to the lift, I've left my own ski boots back at the cabin because I'm wearing boots, and I had to drive the car, and I couldn't drive my ski. Now I got to go back, and by the time I drive back, and I've already sent them, turns out they couldn't even take one run without me because the coat that didn't fit her anymore, I had hung her new pass on, but then we switched coats. And so I had to go back again to get the pass, and they'd been standing there the whole time getting snowed on. Now they're already cold and they haven't even skied once. Can I remain cool and be kind when now they don't even want to go anymore? In that dumb little life moment. And I don't mean to sound so bougie. I'm grateful I even get to go skiing. Holy crap. I'm grateful I even have children. What the heck? But it's easy to lose it, or even just lose it, even if you don't let it out, inside. So, man, look, we all struggle, man. We wrestle with the dumb stresses, the serious stresses, the bougie stresses, but it's a worthy endeavor. It is a superpower if you can develop the capacity to stay cool and be kind. That's what I've discovered.
100%. And that's such a great example that I think is so relatable to just everyday life. It's not even, so some of those things that go wrong aren't necessarily bad things, because they're the things that help to develop the skills to be able to do it the next time. And it's, being able to just kind of take a step back in the situations where everything is going wrong and say, look, some things are out of my control, some things are going to happen, but we're all in this together, and we're going to push through. That's
and by the way,
great tool.
By the way, it only takes one bad interaction to lose credibility in the eyes of others, to look like a total jackass, to destroy your kid's confidence, to destroy your marriage. I mean, to wreck a relationship, or bruise it, at least bruise it. It only takes one offhanded comment, a bit of too much sarcasm, the pride to not apologize quickly and fix it, swallow your pride, whatever it is, accept all the responsibility, even if they're wrong. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I've experienced all of these things, and it's hard. And I'm not perfect, but had I, it would have been really easy for me to just say something to my kids like, oh, couldn't you have remembered the past? But if I get angry at them, even like about a dumb thing, they may never go skiing again with me. That could be it. This one stupid time, just because I left, the thing at home. And so it takes so much self-control, and I don't know how to. I think you tapped into a great one with gratitude. so much of it is just self-control. How do you develop self-control? By frankly developing yourself into just a better person. How do you do that? There's a million books. Read my book, listen to the podcast,
Yep.
listen to that podcast. You know, I mean, it's a constant endeavor, but I wish there's not enough time, but it is a superpower that should be pursued, and it can be pursued
100%.
moment to moment, you know?
And, I think a big part of that is who you're around and who you're learning from. I mean, you were probably an amazing role model to your kids in that moment where you were able to stay cool and be kind. And we have the ability to kind of just pick up on the personalities and the ways that the people around us are acting and bring those into our own kind of tools, and kind of surrounding ourselves with other people who have that mindset, who have that ability to show how they can stay cool and be kind under pressure helps us too. So yeah, the ability
I love that.
Role models.
Oh, I mean, you nailed it, right? Like you are who you hang out with. You become who you spend time with. So that's a powerful one. Thank you. That's a good one. You know, finding tools, ways to actually do this, not just talk about it. I don't know if I was a role model. My kids, I don't think they noticed. But I'll tell you what, they would notice if I lost it. Right. And so, I also think I talk about this a lot. Like I'll share it on a lot of these episodes. I've always said the key to success is self-awareness. If you don't start with like, can you even view yourself in that moment? I feel the anger welling up and I'm frustrated in the moment. Can you get self-aware? Can you be aware that you're angry and frustrated and feeling a bit of rage or whatever, just frustration? And then can you deal with it as opposed to letting it come out even in just a snarky comment? That's all it takes sometimes. And by the way, the pros, I mean, the real leaders, the champions who really excel in life, I talk about it in the book, they find a way to end all passive aggressiveness. They're not passive aggressive people. They're not by the way, it's fun to rib your buddies, and there's a place to do that, like trash talk, a little bit of ribbing, sarcasm. My dirt bike friends, I mean, we bag on each other all day. That's different. There's a difference between, even that trash talking and having fun with sarcasm versus, that comment where it's like, well, the last time I lent you my gloves, you put a hole in them. You're just being kind of a jerk. Like they're just a pair of gloves. And so what if it's a dumb example. My point is like self-control, self-awareness. And that's at the root of so much of it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And that's a big part of meditation for me. If I'm just constantly in the thick of a situation or a couple days or a couple weeks where things are just back-to-back craziness, if I don't take that time every morning, sit down, take 10 minutes for myself to kind of think through, how am I acting? Like what's my mental state right now? Is that good? Is that bad? Then it's hard to have that self-awareness. So yeah, taking time for yourself to think through that. It's a big part of it.
And another great tool from Marshall Mosher. So the gratitude, the meditation, again, for me, it's prayer. Part of my time on my knees is not just listing all of the things I feel grateful for, and then therefore my gratitude component, but taking time to listen and ponder and think and silence. So put any label on it you want. Wrap religion around it. Don't wrap religion around it. But there are so many great tools, and there's so many more. Right? We could list 80 books between you and I that we've read that have maybe made us better people or podcasts or what have you. But another brick in the wall on this episode. Anything else, Marshall? You had some time to think about this topic before we got on. Anything else you want to add, or anything you want to plug? Anything coming up you're doing? Anything else?
Anyone who wants to come join you on the next Adventure Summit, let me know. We'll have to get you back in the cool environments for some kiteboarding.
Absolutely. Adventure Summits with Marshall Mosher. I'm in. If you're listening, let's do it together.
Let's go. Just kind of a reminder for, thanks. Same with you. And I just one kind of reminder that I'd love to just kind of leave people with is to surround themselves with people like you, people that they can look up to, that exude and embody this mindset of stay cool and be kind, that you can learn from. And and bring into your daily life as a part of how you're bringing yourself into the world and how you're showing up for others as well. So thanks for being that inspiration to everyone that is listening, to everyone that's following your life, and everyone that looks up to you, for all of us to be able to take that into the rest of the world.
Wow. Well, there you go. You just saved some chunk of someone's 25-year journey. Surround yourself with people like Marshall, with good people that you can do great things with. And it will lead you to joy, by the way, as we talked about, doing, I love how you put it, right? Doing arduous things, doing challenging things with good people leads to joy. It's amazing. You can follow Marshall, as I do, at Marshall Mosher. That's MarshallMosher on Instagram. He is impossible to miss on YouTube. Just type in his name. Check out Take on Gravity. Flies around in jet suits, man. While you're at
you gotta
it,
come
if you're
fly in
not,
the jetpack with us.
What? Is that a thing I could do?
Of course, yeah.
What? I thought, oh my God. Okay, we got to talk about that. While you're at it, if you want to see human beings flying around, that's where you're going to see them. It is mind-blowing. Please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast or video. Share it out. Give it a star rating, please. It matters. It makes a huge difference. I would thank you in advance for bothering to give this podcast a star rating. Please do share it out on social media if you're digging the content. Help others shave a chunk of their own 25-year journey just because you're that good of a friend. Thank you so much to the extremist of athletes, that flying fellow, the wondrous wanderer who stays cool and is kind in the face of death and danger. What an example. Thank you, Marshall. You've been amazing.
Thanks, Shawn. It's been an honor to be here. Really appreciate it.
And to everyone listening, even in the face of death, danger, or dismemberment, economic stress, relationship hardships, always, and I mean always, find a way to stay cool and be kind. It's hard, but it just might save you 25 years.